In July 1324, the gold markets of Cairo collapsed. Gold prices plummeted because a foreign traveler was handing out tons of the metal to anyone he passed, from high-ranking government officials to the urban poor. That traveler was Mansa Musa. He was a devout Muslim on a pilgrimage to Mecca, and his commitment to charity meant he spent years' worth of tax revenue in a single city. He arrived with no malicious intent, unaware that his philanthropy was actively dismantling the Egyptian economy. By the time Musa left Cairo, the value of gold had dropped by roughly 25%. In the history of global commerce, this remains the only documented case where a single person possessed enough liquid capital to trigger a decade-long macroeconomic depression. To see how one man accumulated that much wealth, we look at the borders of the Mali Empire. At its peak in the 14th century, Musa ruled over 20 to 40 million people. His territory covered a footprint larger than all Western Europe combined. Mali controlled the trans-Saharan crossroads, taxing every merchant moving across the continent. But the real wealth came from the empire's primary exports, gold and salt. In the sub-Saharan climate, blocks of raw desert salt were so vital for survival that merchants routinely traded them weight for weight with pure gold. Musa inherited this monopoly by chance. In 1311, his predecessor, Emperor Abu Bakr II, became obsessed with discovering what lay across the Atlantic. He assembled a fleet of 2,000 ships, sailed west, and vanished. Musa was the backup deputy who suddenly found himself in control of the gold flow of 3 continents, setting the stage for a global debut that would rewrite the economic history of the Middle East. 13 years into his reign, Mansa Musa left Mali for Mecca with a caravan of 60,000 people. 12,000 of them were personal servants dressed in Persian silk. 80 camels marched in the center, each carrying 300 pounds of pure gold dust. This chart illustrates the concept of hyperinflation, using the Cairo crash as a case study. When the supply of gold units spikes instantly, its purchasing power plummets. Musa spent so much gold so quickly that the metal became common and therefore cheap. On his return journey through Egypt, Musa realized the damage he had caused. He spent the next year borrowing that gold back from Cairo's merchants at high interest rates. He was trying to pull the metal out of circulation to restore its value. Musa was acting as a one-man central bank, wielding enough financial gravity to break a regional economy and then personally fund the recovery. When Musa finally returned to West Africa, he pivoted his focus toward infrastructure. He directed his capital into cities along the Niger River, transforming outposts like Timbuktu into an architectural and intellectual metropolis. He brought in architects from Andalusia to construct facilities using native earthen engineering. The crown jewel was Sankore University. At its height, the campus enrolled 25,000 students, a truly staggering number that eclipsed the academic centers of Oxford and Paris during the same century. This manuscript is one of 700,000 produced in Timbuktu. These texts were not limited to religious study. They were advanced treatises on mathematics, astronomy, and law. Timbuktu was the center of an African intellectual golden age that thrived 2 centuries before the European Renaissance even began. In 1375, European cartographers created the Catalan Atlas, crowning Mansa Musa the richest king on earth. As the transatlantic slave trade grew, this image of a wealthy Africa conflicted with new economic incentives. The narrative shifted, portraying the continent's interior as a primitive void. Centuries of Western textbooks followed this shift, systematically omitting the Malian economy and treating the region as if it had no historical record before European arrival. Mansa Musa's absence from modern history textbooks reflects how effectively early colonial narratives could omit a golden age to maintain a specific worldview of global power. Today, preserving the physical evidence of Musa's empire is an ongoing struggle. In 2012, as armed extremists occupied Timbuktu and began burning libraries, local civilians packed thousands of ancient manuscripts into metal trunks and smuggled them out of the city at night. This is the modern rescue of that legacy. Librarians and scholars saved 350,000 texts, hiding them in safe houses to protect them from both deliberate destruction and environmental decay. Despite their survival, the tragedy of these rescued documents continues. Due to a lack of funding and global attention, The vast majority of these advanced scientific and legal texts remain completely untranslated. We are taught that pre-colonial Africa lacked the capital and the intellectual rigor to build modern civilization. Mansa Musa's surviving legacy proves the opposite, which is why the record was scrubbed.